In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make teleportation pads, that when you step on one, it will teleport you to the pad you have linked to it. So for example, I have it set so that this first pad will teleport me to that second pad, and that the second pad will teleport me to that third pad, and finally the third pad will teleport me back to the first pad. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is inside of our content browser, we want to right click in empty space of a folder that we're going to use, and we need to create a blueprint class and then click actor. Now we can rename this to whatever we want. I'm going to rename this to BP underscore teleportation underscore pad. We can go ahead and open this up now. And now before we do any scripting, we need to add some components and some variables. So if we swap on over to the viewport and click this add button underneath components, we can add a static mesh. You can add whatever static mesh you want. I'm just going to add the cube, and I am going to squish down this cube so that it looks more like a pad. Next, we need to click the add button again, and we need to search for box collision. Once we have our box collision, we can scale this down a bit so it is a little bit more centered, because we don't want to be teleporting as soon as we like touch the pad. We want to be teleporting when we're like basically in the middle of the pad. Now let's make some variables. So if we come down here to variables and click on this plus button, we can add in a variable. We want it to stay a Boolean, and we can rename it to just triggered. We don't need to edit this variable at all, so there's nothing we need to change in the details panel. So let's add another variable. This one will also be a Boolean, and we will call it event locked. Now this one we do need to change, so we need to come up to the top of the screen and click compile and save. So now we can edit this variable in the details panel. Over at event locked, we want to change this to true. Now the last variable we need to add is going to be a name, and we will call this linked add. And we do need to edit this variable, so once again go up to the top, click compile and save. And now in the details panel, we need to set this variable to instance editable. Now with all of our variables made, we can compile and save once again and go over to the event graph. So now in the event graph, we do not need these bottom two nodes, but we do need the event begin play. So if we drag off of event begin play and search for get all actors of class with tag. Now we need to select the actor class. And so in the drop-down menu, we need to search for our teleportation pad blueprint. So BP underscore teleportation add. Now we need to drag out our linked pad variable, and we want to get it and then plug it into tag on the get all actors of class with tag node. Now we want to right click on out actors and promote to variable, and then we come down to our variables and we rename this pad array. This pad array will basically get all of the instances of our teleportation pad blueprint that we have placed in the level. And then later we can use this linked pad variable that we created to find the instance that we want to teleport to. So now we need to right click on our box collision, add event, and click add on component begin overlap. So now we need to drag out of the execution pin, and then we need to search for cast to, and then whatever the name of your player character's blueprint is. Mine is just third person character. And then we connect object to other actor. So now we need to right click on this as BP third person character in, and we promote to variable, and then in our variables tab we need to rename this to player underscore reference. Now we need to drag out of this next execution pin and search for branch. And then we need to drag out our just triggered variable. And we want to get it and then connect it into the condition for the branch. Next, we want to drag out our pad array variable, and we want to get it. And then we want to drag out of that pin and search for get a copy. So now we want to drag out of the get node and search for is valid. We want to click on the one with the question mark. And then connect the false execution pin from the branch into the is valid execution pin. Next, we want to drag out of our get node again. And we want to search for set just triggered. And then connect is valid into that execution pin. And we want to set it to true. Now we want to drag out of the next execution pin and search for a delay node. And set this to something like 0.5. Because when our character triggers the box collision, we don't want it to immediately teleport. So it's good to add like a small delay just to make it look nicer so it doesn't immediately just teleport as soon as you step on it. Now we need to bring out our player ref variable. And we need to get it. And now we drag off of that and search for set actor relative location. And then connect up the execution pins. And now in order to get the new relative location, we need to come back over to our get node, and we want to get the default scene root. And off of the default scene root, we want to get the relative location. And off of relative location, we want to bring out an add node and add 100 to the z value. And so we can now connect this to new relative location. The reason we need to add 100 to the z is because we want to teleport the player above the pad instead of at the pad's origin, or else the player will just teleport into the ground. So now we need to go back to our get node once again and pull out of it and search for set event locked. And we can go ahead and bring this on over to the end of our script and connect these execution wires and then set event locked to false. And now we can zoom out and double click on this wire to add some reroute nodes just to make it look nicer. Now we need to come back over to the beginning of our script, and we need to right click on our box collision again, add another event, and we want to add on component end overlap. So off of this execution pin, we want to bring out another branch node, and then in our variables, we want to bring out the event locked variable, and we want to get it and connect that into the condition of the branch. Now, out of the false execution node, we want to set just triggered to false. And then out of the next execution node, we want to set event locked to true. So this will basically make it so once we teleport, we're technically ending the overlap with the box collision, but we don't want to do that yet. We want to end the overlap when we step off of the box collision. So this basically makes it so when we teleport, it doesn't actually trigger the next two events. It just goes off of the true and doesn't do anything. And then when we actually step off of it, it will trigger the next two events because we set it to false at the end of our script. Alright, that is the entire script done. Now we need to compile and save, and we can go back to our level. So now you can bring out the teleportation pad, and we want to duplicate it a couple times, so you can press Control D to duplicate it once, and then Control D again to duplicate it again. And now we can select our first pad, and in the details panel, we want to search for tag. Now in here, we want to click on the plus button to add element, and then change this. I'm going to change this to 1 because it's the first pad. And now select the second pad and add element. And I'm going to set this to 2 because it's the second pad. Now on the third pad, add element and set this to, I'm going to set this to 3. Now if we select our first pad again and we exit out of our search, we can set the linked pad. Now the way the linked pad works is you have to put the tag of the pad you want to teleport to into here. So we want to teleport from the first pad to the second pad, so we put 2 in here. And then we select the second pad, and we can put 3 in linked pad because we want to teleport to the third pad. And then we select the third pad, and we can put 1 because we want to teleport back to the first pad. And that should be it. If we play the game, we step on the first pad, teleport to the second pad. And if we step onto the second pad, teleport to the third pad. And if we step on the third pad, we're back at the first pad.